There are places on our planet that hold a memory. Deep, ancient memories that predate our maps, our ships, our very understanding of the world. They are pockets of mystery where the veil between what we know and what we fear is thin. For centuries, one such place has haunted our collective imagination. It is a stretch of ocean, vast and unforgiving, etched into our minds by stories of loss and whispers of the unknown. We call it the Bermuda Triangle. But this name is new. The mystery it represents is as old as the sea itself. It is a story not just of lost planes and vanished ships, but of humanity's enduring struggle with the forces of nature we cannot control. Long before the first compass spun wildly, long before the first engine sputtered into silence, the ocean knew this place. It was a realm of sudden, violent moods, a place where the sky and sea could turn on a mariner in a heartbeat. The indigenous peoples of the Caribbean, the Taino and the Caribs, knew the waters well. Their lore spoke of angry spirits and treacherous currents, warnings passed down through generations. They respected the ocean's power, its ability to give and its terrifying capacity to take. These were not myths to them. They were survival guides, a roadmap to navigating a world where nature held all the cards and humanity was merely a guest. What is it about this particular patch of water, this invisible triangle connecting Bermuda, Florida, and Puerto Rico? It has no official borders on any map, yet it exists vividly in our minds. It is a theatre of the unexplained, a place where the rules of our world seem to bend and sometimes to break entirely. For every soul who has sailed its waters, for every pilot who has crossed its skies, there is a silent acknowledgement of its reputation. A quiet hope that their journey will not be the next chapter in its dark and storied history. This is a story of that fear and the search for the truth that lies beneath it. The ocean has always been a keeper of secrets. Its depths hold sunken empires, forgotten battles, and the quiet resting places of countless souls. But the Bermuda Triangle is different. The secrets it holds are not just of endings, but of disappearances, of final moments that were never recorded, of questions that have echoed through time, unanswered. We have looked to the stars for aliens, to the depths for monsters, and to the supernatural for explanations. We have been driven by a primal need to understand, to pull back the curtain on this profound and terrifying mystery. And now the ocean is finally beginning to share its ancient truths. If you're fascinated by the mysteries of our world and want to uncover more ancient secrets, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Join us on this journey into the unknown. December 5th, 1945. The world was breathing a sigh of relief. The Great War was over. Young men, trained for combat, were now flying routine missions. On this clear afternoon, 5 Avenger torpedo bombers lifted off from a naval air station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This was Flight 19, a simple training exercise. 14 men, led by an experienced instructor, soaring into a calm blue sky. They were supposed to fly east, conduct bombing runs, and return home in a few hours. They were young, confident, and utterly unaware that they were flying into the heart of a legend. The first sign of trouble came as a faint crackle over the radio. Lieutenant Charles Taylor, the flight leader, sounded confused, disoriented. His compasses were malfunctioning. He was an experienced pilot, a veteran of the Pacific Theatre, yet he could not tell which way was west. He thought he was over the Florida Keys, but his flight path said otherwise. Below them, the sea was getting rough. The clear blue sky was giving way to a strange, unsettling haze. The other pilots, trusting their leader, followed him deeper into the growing confusion. They were lost, not just in the sky, but in a place that seemed to defy logic itself. On the ground, radio operators listened with growing alarm. The confident voices of the pilots were now strained with anxiety. "Everything is wrong. Strange," one pilot was heard saying. "We can't be sure of any direction. The ocean doesn't look as it should." They were flying blind, their instruments useless, the familiar coastline of Florida nowhere in sight. The sun was setting, and with it their fuel and their hope. In their final transmissions, there was no talk of strange lights or alien craft. There was only the sound of human beings, facing the terrifying reality that they were lost at sea and darkness was falling. Then there was silence. The radio went dead. Flight 19, with its 14 men, had simply vanished from the sky. In the desperate hours that followed, a rescue mission was launched. A Martin Mariner flying boat carrying 13 crewmen was dispatched to search for the lost squadron. It climbed into the night sky, headed for Flight 19's last known position. And then it too disappeared. It never sent a distress signal. It just vanished from radar. In a single evening, 6 aircraft and 27 men were swallowed by the Bermuda Triangle. The legend now had its most famous and most tragic story. The story of Flight 19 became a global sensation. It was not the first disappearance, but it was the one that ignited the world's imagination. Suddenly, old sea tales and forgotten incidents were re-examined. A pattern seemed to emerge, a dark tapestry woven from decades of unexplained loss. Journalists and authors began connecting the dots, drawing lines on a map that formed a sinister triangle. They unearthed the story of the USS Cyclops, a massive Navy collier ship that vanished without a trace in 1918, taking over 300 souls with it. There was no SOS, no wreckage ever found. It was as if a giant hand had plucked it from the ocean. Fear is a powerful author. It writes stories in the absence of facts. With each new disappearance, the mythology of the triangle grew more elaborate, more terrifying. Was it a gateway to another dimension? A portal in time? People spoke of electronic fog, a strange greenish-grey mist that could swallow a ship whole, silencing its radios and spinning its compasses. Others whispered of ancient alien technology, a submerged crystal pyramid from the lost city of Atlantis that periodically activated and pulled vessels to their doom. These were not scientific theories. They were attempts to give a face to a faceless terror, to explain the unexplainable. The stories became more and more dramatic. Pilots reported seeing strange lights in the sky, objects that moved with impossible speed and agility. Sailors told of rogue waves, mountains of water that rose from a calm sea without warning, capable of capsizing even the largest ships in an instant. The ocean in this region was portrayed as a predator, a conscious entity with a malevolent will. The legend was fed by eyewitness accounts, often embellished over time, and the human need for a grand narrative. It was easier to believe in sea monsters or alien abductors than to accept the terrifying randomness of nature's power. This growing legend had a real-world impact. It instilled a deep and abiding fear in those who made their living on the sea. Every sailor and pilot who crossed the Triangle did so with a small knot of anxiety in their stomach. They checked their instruments twice. They watched the sky and the water with a little more intensity. The myth had become a psychological reality, casting a long shadow over one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. The Bermuda Triangle was no longer just a place on a map. It was a state of mind, a symbol of our vulnerability in the face of the vast, indifferent ocean. While tales of aliens and lost cities captured the public's imagination, the reality of the disappearances remained stark and tragic. Take the case of the SS El Faro, a cargo ship lost as recently as 2015. It sailed directly into the path of Hurricane Joaquin. The massive vessel, nearly 800 feet long, fought valiantly against monstrous waves and hurricane-force winds. The captain's last communications painted a harrowing picture of a ship taking on water, losing propulsion, and being tossed about like a toy. It was, honestly, a desperate battle against an overwhelmingly powerful force of nature. All 33 crew members were lost. This was not a mystery of the supernatural. It was a tragedy born from the unique and volatile weather of the region. The Bermuda Triangle sits in a corridor where weather systems collide with devastating force. Warm water from the Gulf Stream fuels the rapid intensification of storms, turning a tropical depression into a monstrous hurricane in a matter of hours. This is not a place for the unprepared or the unlucky. The sea here is deep, with some of the deepest underwater trenches on Earth, like the Puerto Rico Trench. Wreckage can sink for miles, lost forever in the crushing pressure of the abyss. Consider the case of the Star Tiger and the Star Ariel, two passenger planes that vanished in the late 1940s. Both disappeared without a distress call in good weather, according to initial reports. These incidents fueled the myth of sudden, inexplicable events. However, later analysis suggested that these aircraft were flying at the very edge of their operational limits. A sudden, catastrophic equipment failure or a high-altitude jet stream wind that threw them disastrously off course and exhausted their fuel were more likely culprits. The planes were pushing the boundaries of technology, and in the Triangle, those boundaries were unforgiving. The list of the lost is long and haunting. The KC-135 Stratotankers that collided and vanished in 1963. The private yachts and small planes that have disappeared over the years, often with experienced sailors and pilots at the helm. Each story contributes to the weight of the legend. But when we look closer, we see a recurring theme. We see human error. We see technological limitations. And most of all, we see the overwhelming and unpredictable power of the natural world. The Triangle's grip was not paranormal. It was something far more real, and in many ways far more terrifying. For every storyteller who spun a yarn about the Triangle, there was a scientist, an engineer, or an investigator who sought a rational explanation. They refused to accept mystery as an answer. They believed that the universe operates on consistent, understandable laws, and the Bermuda Triangle was no exception. Oceanographers, meteorologists and geologists began to study the region with a new intensity. They deployed buoys to measure currents, used satellites to track weather patterns, and mapped the ocean floor with sonar. They were determined to replace fear with facts and superstition with science. One of the first myths to be dismantled was the idea of unusual magnetic anomalies. The story goes that compasses spin wildly in the triangle, making navigation impossible. While it is true that the Earth's magnetic field has its quirks, scientists found nothing in the region that would cause a complete and catastrophic failure of navigational equipment. The triangle is one of the few places on Earth where true north and magnetic north align. For an unprepared navigator, this could cause confusion, but it was not a supernatural force. It was a known, predictable geographic fact that required skill, not superstition, to navigate. Geologists then turned their attention to the seabed. They investigated a captivating theory involving methane hydrates. These are vast frozen deposits of methane gas trapped under the ocean floor. The theory proposed that a sudden release of this gas could create a massive plume of bubbles, drastically reducing the density of the water. A ship sailing over such an area would lose buoyancy and sink almost instantly, without warning. While this phenomenon is real and has been observed, scientists have found no evidence that such a catastrophic eruption has occurred in the triangle in a way that could account for the famous disappearances. The search for a single, all-encompassing answer was proving fruitless. The investigation then moved from the depths to the sky. Meteorologists focused on the unique and violent weather of the region. They studied the Gulf Stream, a powerful ocean current that acts like a river within the sea, creating its own weather and influencing storms. They analyzed the potential for microbursts, sudden, intense downdrafts of air from a thunderstorm that can strike a plane with the force of a bomb, pushing it into the sea. They modelled the formation of rogue waves, which were once dismissed as sailors' tall tales, but are now a documented and terrifying reality. Science was not finding one secret. It was finding many. The great secret of the Bermuda Triangle was finally coming into focus. It was not a single key that unlocked the mystery. There was no monster, no portal, no alien device. The truth, as is so often the case, was more complex and far more elegant. The Bermuda Triangle is a place where several dangerous but perfectly natural phenomena converge. It is a perfect storm of geological, oceanographic and meteorological conditions. A place where the odds of disaster are simply statistically higher than in many other parts of the world. It is not cursed, it is just uniquely challenging. The first piece of the puzzle is the weather. The region is a hurricane alley, where warm tropical waters act as fuel for some of the most powerful storms on Earth. But even on a clear day, the weather can be treacherous. The convergence of different weather fronts can create sudden violent thunderstorms that appear with little warning. These storms can produce waterspouts and extreme turbulence that can overwhelm smaller vessels and aircraft. The speed at which these conditions can change is what has caught so many by surprise, leaving no time to send a distress call before being consumed by the elements. The second piece is the ocean itself. The Gulf Stream is a swift and turbulent current, reaching speeds of several knots. A small boat with engine trouble can be swept far off course in a matter of hours, making search and rescue missions incredibly difficult. Add to this the topography of the ocean floor. The region contains some of the deepest marine trenches in the world. Any wreckage that sinks into these abyssal plains is unlikely to ever be found. The ocean does not just claim victims here, it hides the evidence in its deepest, most inaccessible vaults, creating the illusion of a complete disappearance. Finally, there is the human element. The Triangle is one of the most heavily trafficked areas of ocean in the world. Countless private planes, yachts and commercial vessels cross it every day. With such a high volume of traffic, it is a statistical certainty that more accidents will occur here than in a less travelled region. Many of the documented disappearances involved inexperienced pilots or sailors, or vessels that were not properly equipped for the challenging conditions. The legend of the Triangle itself may have contributed, creating a sense of panic and disorientation when things first started to go wrong. The mystery was not in the water or the sky. It was in the convergence of all these factors. Our own human fallibility meeting the raw, untamed power of nature in a place that does not forgive mistakes.